So the time has come. The anime that has given me equal levels of hype and white-knuckled anxiety has released on Netflix. That's right, Ghost in the Shell 2045, the newest anime adaptation to the beloved cyberpunk franchise, written by Shiro Masamune. But before we get started, if you don't know what Ghost in the Shell is, I'll take a second to explain a few things. Ghost in the Shell is a cyberpunk action manga that takes place in a futuristic vision of Japan. It's a very grounded story that balances high-concept science fiction with in-depth world building. Hell, the amount of detail and thought put into the politics and characters makes this whole setting feel extremely authentic. It discusses everything from the cultural impact that cybernetic augmentations can have on society to the idea and role of God as viewed by an artificial intelligence. But even with these concepts, the series never strays so far out there in its vision of the future that it dips into pure fantasy. Sure, real cool is very much a thing, since sadly Special Forces robo-mommies are probably not gonna come true, but so much about this setting feels genuine that it really starts to look like the Deus Ex of anime, like we're getting a peephole into something that's simply on its way as we speak. Now, of course, this means that you won't see flying cars and interplanetary colonies like in some examples of the genre, but while you won't see this iconic cyberpunk eye candy, instead of the focus being on making something like Blade Runner, instead the idea is to make it feel as plausible as possible. For example, in this future, so many people have cybernetic replacements that laws were passed to protect the privacy of citizens, since getting an artificial limb or organ requires the use of a cyber brain, which can be hacked into, so all of your memories, personality, and brain functions are at risk of being exploited by hackers. For the average Joe, this is pretty scary, but for high-ranking government workers that deal with classified information on a daily basis, this shit is nightmarish. And while this detail might seem small, like of course they would make it illegal to hack into a guy's brain and turn his lungs off, the fact that a detail like that exists and is addressed by characters in the series goes to show that this isn't just a glorified movie set with characters putting on a performance. This is a living, breathing world that exists in its own reality. You can see how world events impact daily life and how humanity adjusted to living with this technology. Some cyberpunk stories are so obsessed with whatever the gimmick to their world is that it becomes kind of hard to believe that a place like that could really exist. I love human revolution, but so much focus is put on the discussion revolving around transhumanism that it gets kind of silly. You won't see roaming gangs of extremists chopping off cyber limbs because technology bad. Human revolution really wants to be Ghost in the Shell, but it forgot one of the core tenets that makes it so interesting in the first place. Everyone has kind of already seen everything. It's not shocking to see somebody with an artificial arm in that world. It's not weird to see full-blown androids take over service jobs. Hell, in one episode of Standalone Complex, a character pretends to be the consciousness of a war veteran that got uploaded into a fucking tank, and the police fully believed that was the case. They didn't even question it. This is what made the live-action movie so bad. They made Kusanagi the first full-body replacement cyborg and acted like that was a huge deal, when in the lore, it actually super isn't, like at all. Yes, it's important to Kusanagi's character, but not to the world at large. It's mundane, and that's why Ghost in the Shell is so interesting. All these awesome ideas for badass cyberpunk shit is honestly just treated as mundane and normal. But I've already gotten off track here, so let's readjust course and actually get to the review. So I've explained a bit about the lore and world of Ghost in the Shell, so I should probably explain the setup to this adaptation. But first, here's something I need to address. In the months leading up to this release, I was under the impression that it was a standalone movie, because I kept hearing conflicting rumors that it was either a whole new season of Standalone Complex or just a spin-off movie. Well, we finally have the answer. Yes, it is a full 12-episode anime series. Also, this is a direct sequel to Standalone Complex and does treat the events of that series as having happened. So 2045 takes place around 15 years after the events of Standalone Complex, and that time a new program was begun by world leaders to stimulate the world economy by creating sustainable war. Essentially the military-industrial complex, but they stopped being subtle about it, like the Patriots in Metal Gear Solid. But they ended up completely screwing the pooch and destroying the world economy, and things got so bad that even Japan was affected. infected, which is essentially the global superpower in the series, to the point that Section 9, the organization the main cast all work for, is disbanded, with half the members running off to South America to become mercenaries in order to make a living. It's certainly an interesting idea for a continuation of the timeline. I guess you could call it a failed dystopia, where the governments tried to do some Patriots, George Orwell level shit, but completely fucked everything up. And that's actually pretty interesting, considering most dystopian stories paint their governments out as all-powerful and all-knowing. No, this actually takes into account the very real, very painful truth in the world. Governments are run by retards. The reason shadow government shit doesn't exist like you see in movies is because they're so goddamn stupid that it would all get exposed in a week. And if you want to complain that I got too political there, welcome to Ghost in the Shell. But everything aside, is the show actually good? Well, here's where I need to address the elephant in the room here. Yes, the show is completely CGI. Every single scene is 3D, and it never even pretends to have a 2D bone in its body. To some people, this is immediately a sign that this show is bad. They want the 2D that made the rest of the franchise so good and iconic. I completely understand this. It's really hard to go from the phenomenal, hand-drawn art that created some of the best moments in anime to computer-generated, well, everything. If you seriously refuse to give this show a shot because the CGI looks repulsive to you, I fully get it. There's a reason I keep saying animation is the important part of an anime, because that's the thing you're watching the entire series. If a show has an art style you don't like, it brings down the entire package, because an anime can have the best story and characters in the world, but if it's visually a mess, then the potential audience you're trying to reach won't try it. First impressions matter. However, and this is where I have to be a tad hypocritical here, since I have went on plenty of autistic rants talking about how much I don't like CG and prefer 2D, but I actually ended up liking this show quite a bit. Yeah, I know. Still, I will say that once I got used to the animation, the show actually ended up being a pretty great experience, and the CG was actually used for some pretty creative set pieces. Most of the time, it did feel like a cutscene for some PS4 Ghost in the Shell game we never got to play, but I will say it would have been a pretty kick-ass game. Action scenes still feel intense and exciting, even if they don't have all of the impact that a good 2D style could have relayed, because while an android getting its head popped open in 3D isn't bad, it's not as good as when it happens in 2D. Just a sad fact of life. But this is the part that really matters here. While the animation is definitely going to split people down the middle, the writing is just as good as classic standalone Complex. Every character feels just as thought out and human as before. They're all intelligent and very charismatic. The queen of cock and ball torture herself, Kusanagi, is just as badass and lovable as ever. And her design isn't half bad in this 3D style. Her ass isn't as good though, so yeah, that's a problem. And Tokusa constantly looks like his textures haven't loaded in yet. Maybe they'll patch it in like with cats. Anyway, 2045 feels like a natural next step for the standalone Complex series. I don't want to say too much because the plot does actually have some spoilers I want to keep hidden, but I will explain a detail that was revealed in the promotional trailers. The big conflict in the show revolves around the idea of post-humans. Essentially, they are individuals whose cyber brains overcharge, to the point that the processing power is equal to a supercomputer, and Section 9 is reformed to hunt down any and all post-humans before they wreak havoc on the world at large. So it's like Blade Runner, but the replicants are also walking Skynets. Definitely not a bad idea for a plotline, I'm not gonna lie, and the concept is used to its absolute fullest. A post-human is treated like a very genuine danger. They're capable of hacking cyber brains at insane speeds, and that's not even talking about half the other shit they get up to. But while they feel like a very real danger, it acknowledges that not every post-human is necessarily evil. There's still shreds of humanity deep inside, and some actually seem to have ulterior motives, other than just collapsing what's left of civilization. Now, it doesn't do that stupid thing of post-humans are the next step in evolution, or some other worn-out crap like that, nor are they painted as a sad minority being abused by the meanie government. No, they are clearly a threat, act like a threat, and are treated like a threat by all of the characters. And speaking of characters, 2045 decided to actually introduce a few new people to the series. One is the mercenary teammate of Bato and Kusanagi named Stan. He's played off as a rookie that's not quite as refined as the others, but he's definitely not a complete dumbass. His role is pretty small though, and the show kind of forgets about him after a point. And another newcomer is the Japanese Prime Minister, who is actually an American who married a Japanese woman and gained citizenship for the country. He's not a bad character, and his arc revolves around gaining the trust of those around him, as the rest of the country sees him as just a puppet for the United States, and basically they're expecting him to just sell the entire country out. He's not though, and seems to have actually honest intentions. Then you have Purin. Purin is kind of weird. Essentially, she's a teenage prodigy recruited into Neo Section 9 due to her skills at hacking. Now, this immediately is setting off some red flags in your brain, so I'll go ahead and calm you down. She's actually pretty good. Purin is likable and holds Section 9 up as her personal heroes. She's a fangirl that got her dream job. Sure, she's skilled and capable of doing her job, but that doesn't mean she's invincible. Yes, she's a little annoying, but that's kind of the point of her character anyway. She's clearly still a kid that hasn't completely grown up yet. Definitely not bad for a newcomer to the series, but she's still not as good as the Tachikomas though, because nothing can top those good boys. And now, I want to address something. To those worried that Ghost in the Shell got woke, which some people speculated was gonna happen when they found out Production IG was featuring America in the series, and it's a collaboration with Netflix for the production, no, you don't have to worry about that. If you want proof, there was that one part where it was found a politician was drafting laws to favor illegal immigrants and refugees so they could be used as a cheap source of labor and big businesses could undercut government contracts and pocket all the money instead, all while parading around the public image that they were humanitarians trying to repair the Japanese economy. So yeah, not exactly the new Warriors. It's just as red-pilled as the other standalone Complex series, so don't worry. Kusanagi isn't about to look straight at the screen and say trans rights. She knows they aren't people. But one aspect of this anime that really surprised me was the music. I was worried about the music ever since the trailer, since Fly With Me.
Money make the world go round. Money make the slow slow down. Goddamn, you monopoly, my brain must be blown out. Why? I guess what? You fuckers. You fuckers. You motherfucker, I will rain hellfire upon you.
The jazz rap is okay on its own, but for Ghost in the Shell, it feels way too flamboyant. It just doesn't stack up to something like Making of a Cyborg, Inner Universe, Rise. Fuck's sake, even the Arise OVAs had intros that felt far more fitting to the style and tone that Ghost in the Shell sticks to. Some people might like this intro a lot. The fact that it is a tribute to the Making of a Cyborg scene from the original movie is a nice touch. It's just the music itself wasn't for me. At least Netflix lets me skip it, that's all I can really say. Nevertheless, the actual ambient soundtrack that plays in the show is surprisingly great. You have a mixture between an orchestral jazz soundtrack that almost felt similar to a few tracks in Persona 5, and the electronic synth music that fits the Ghost in the Shell feel. It's a healthy marriage, even if there simply isn't enough music to go around altogether. It's not something I'm gonna scour YouTube to find, but it fits each scene. So the music is good, the writing is just as compelling as ever, and the animation isn't a complete disaster, at least to me. Is there anything else I can say about this anime? Well, there's one thing. It's half done. I'm not kidding. Right now there are 12 episodes, but the pacing makes it very obvious that this is actually a 24 episode show, which makes sense when you remember that the first two standalone seasons were, around 24 episodes each. It teases post-humans that Section 9 is supposed to find, but by the time the show ends, you only really know about 2 of them, and the actual ending of the anime feels like it just stops halfway through the show. It isn't a resolution, it's a blatant cliffhanger. So I guess the biggest problem I have is that there isn't enough of it. bit. Now, maybe it's rose-tinted glasses, since we've been starved of Ghost in the Shell shit for a few years, but I really did have fun with this show. Will I watch it again? I'm not sure, but I'm not gonna pretend it isn't a possibility. That's all I can really say about Ghost in the Shell 2045. I was scared shitless that this anime would fail, but it was actually a very pleasant surprise. Is this gonna be Netflix Witcher 2.0, where the honeymoon period wears off and the seething rage sets in? Not really, no. Netflix Witcher was clearly made by people that didn't actually care about The Witcher. They tore characters apart and changed things because they thought it'd make them like Game of Thrones. Now obviously Henry Cavill cared, by golly did that man care, but the vast majority of the ones working on it didn't give a shit less. 2045 feels like the exact opposite scenario. This was made by people that really cared about Ghost in the Shell, so all the respect and admiration for the franchise seeps through. We'll never truly know why they went the 3D route. Maybe it was a stylistic choice, maybe Netflix gave them a micro budget and they had to make what they could with it. Still, I would hate for everyone to take one glance at the animation and decide to never give this series a chance. Is it rough to look at? Yes, but I bet half you motherfuckers picked the deep fryer diver in Katawa Shoujo anyway, so you should be used to butterfaces. In all seriousness, this is definitely something you need to adjust to, but once you're used to it, it really isn't something you think about. Yes, there are a few embarrassingly bad moments, but I would hate for everyone to not give this anime a chance because of it, so please consider sitting down and checking out a few episodes, and let me know what you think about it. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.
You are the first of your kind, but you're not invulnerable.
Maybe next time you can design me better.
Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. You misunderstood. Oh no, 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 no. No, no, no. Oh no.